Captain Samantha Bennett looked out at the stars from the bridge of the exploration vessel Horizon. This sector of space was new to humans. No one from Earth had been this far before. It made her both nervous and excited. "Captain, I'm picking up an unknown signal," said Communications Officer Kelly Martinez. Her fingers moved quickly over her screen as she tried to clear up the transmission. Samantha walked over to Kelly's station. "Can you identify it?" "It's not matching any known patterns in our database," Kelly said, "but it's definitely artificial. Someone is out there." First Officer Ryan Miller stood up from his chair. Ryan had served in the military before joining the Horizon crew. His instincts had saved them more than once. "I don't like this," he said quietly to Samantha. "We should go to yellow alert, just to be safe." Samantha nodded. "Yellow alert. All. Crew to standby positions." The lights on the bridge dimmed slightly as the alert status changed. Crew members moved with purpose to their stations. "Captain, we have visual contact," called out Sensor Officer Eric Powell. "Putting it on the main screen now." The large screen at the front of the bridge lit up with an image that made everyone fall silent. A massive ship, at least 5 times, the size of the Horizon, was moving toward them. Its design was unlike anything humans had created. The ship was covered in what looked like armor plates, with strange glowing lines running between them. "That's not human," whispered Eric. "First contact," Samantha said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Open all standard greeting channels, Kelly." Before Kelly could respond, the ship's computer announced, "Warning, energy buildup detected in approaching vessel." "They're powering weapons," Ryan shouted. "Evasive maneuvers." Samantha gripped her chair as the Horizon suddenly changed course. The alien ship fired, a beam of purple energy missing them by meters. "They didn't even try to talk first," Samantha said, shocked. "Captain, they're hailing us now," Kelly reported. "On screen," Samantha ordered. The face that appeared made several crew members gasp. The alien had gray-purple skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and no visible nose. What might have been its mouth moved as it spoke. The ship's computer, "Working to translate. Human vessel," the alien said, the translation coming through in a flat, computerized voice. "I am Commander Kraz of the Voraxian Empire. Your ship is now property of the Empire. Surrender and you will be allowed to live as servants." Samantha stood tall. "This is Captain Samantha Bennett of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We are on a peaceful mission. We have no quarrel with you or your empire." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peaceful? Humans are known to be weak. Your bodies break easily. You have no natural armor. Your teeth are flat. Your claws are non-existent. What could you possibly offer but servitude?" Ryan stepped forward. "We offer friendship, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Commander Kraz seemed amused. "Very well. We will take your ship, and you will learn your place in the galaxy." The screen went dark. "They're coming alongside us," Eric reported. "Their ship is extending some kind of docking tube." "They're going to board us," Ryan said. "We need to prepare for boarders." Samantha hit the ship-wide communication button. "All hands prepare for boarders. This is not a drill. Security teams to all major junctions. All non-combat personnel to safe rooms." Chief Engineer Heather Gonzalez's voice came over the comm system. "Captain, I need 5 minutes in engineering. I have an idea." "Make it fast, Heather," Samantha replied. Ryan was already distributing the few weapons they had. The Horizon was an exploration vessel, not a warship. They had standard sidearms for security personnel and little else. "Captain," Ryan said, "we're outnumbered and outgunned. These aliens look like they were built for fighting." Samantha nodded. "Then we don't fight fair. We're humans. We adapt." The ship shuddered as the alien vessel attached itself. Metal groaned as the docking tube forced its way through the outer hull. "Breach on Deck C, Section 4, the computer announced. "That's near engineering," Ryan said with concern. Samantha tapped her communicator. "Heather, they're coming your way." "Perfect," Heather replied, sounding strangely calm. "Just keep your people clear of the main corridor on Deck C." Ryan raised an eyebrow. What is she planning? They didn't have to wait long to find out. The security camera feed from Deck C showed a group of 7 Varaxians moving through the corridor. They were tall, muscular beings, wearing armor and carrying weapons that looked like they could tear through the Horizon's interior walls with ease. Suddenly, the corridor filled with a dense white fog. The Varaxians stopped, confused. Then the fog ignited. It wasn't an explosion exactly, more like a flash fire that rippled down the corridor. When it cleared, the Varaxians were still standing, but they were disoriented, their weapons on the floor. Now, Heather's voice shouted from somewhere off camera. A crew member riding what looked like a modified maintenance cart charged into the corridor. The cart slammed into the Varaxians, knocking several down. More crew members appeared from side rooms, wielding tools, fire extinguishers, and improvised weapons. They're fighting back with maintenance equipment, Ryan said, sounding both impressed and worried. The bridge crew watched as the outnumbered humans fought with whatever they had. One used a high-powered air hose to blow a blinding cleaning powder into a Varaxian's 4 eyes. Another used an electronic repair tool as an improvised taser. Second breach on Deck B, the computer announced. They're trying to get to the bridge, Samantha realized. Ryan, we need to hold them here. The next 10 minutes were chaos. The Varaxians clearly expected an easy victory, but at every turn they met humans who refused to give up. When standard tactics failed, the humans changed approaches. When one weapon was ineffective, they found something else. A group of scientists trapped 3 Varaxians in a lab by reconfiguring a magnetic field generator to pin their metal armor to the wall. The kitchen staff superheated cooking oil and used it to create barriers the Varaxians couldn't cross. At one point, the ship's gravity was reversed in a section, sending unprepared Varaxians floating helplessly, while humans who had secured themselves continued to fight. Finally, Commander Kraz himself appeared on the screen again. He looked different now, his confidence replaced by confusion. What? What are you? He demanded. How are you doing this? You are outnumbered. Your technology is inferior. Your bodies are fragile. Samantha smiled, though there was no humor in it. We're humans, Commander. We evolved on a death world where everything tried to kill us. We survived by outthinking our problems. Now take your soldiers and leave my ship, or we'll show you what else we can do. For a moment, Kraz stared at her. Then he gave an order in his native language. The Varaxians began retreating to their ship. As the alien vessel detached and moved away, the bridge crew of the Horizon let out a collective breath. Damage report, Samantha called out. Minor hull breach on Deck C, already sealed, Eric reported. 12 injured crew members, no fatalities. Ryan looked at Samantha with new respect. They never expected us to fight back like that. No, Samantha agreed. And that might be our advantage out here. Set course for the nearest Earth outpost. We need to report this contact. As the Horizon moved away, she added quietly, and something tells me this isn't the last we'll see of the Varaxian Empire. The space station Nexus 7 floated like a giant metal spider at the edge of the Orion Arm. 6 long docking arms extended from a central hub, each one crowded with ships from across the galaxy. It was a place where anyone could find anything, or anyone, for the right price. In the darkest corner of a bar called the Void Point, 7 mercenaries from different species sat around a table. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of various intoxicants. They were discussing their latest jobs when the door slid open, letting in the brighter light from the corridor. A hulking figure ducked to enter, standing nearly 8 feet tall, with leathery gray skin and 4 arms. Drak Thor was one of the most feared mercenaries in 3 systems. He moved to the bar, ordered a drink that smoked when it hit the air, then noticed the group in the corner. Mind if I join? He rumbled, his translator making his words sound flat and mechanical. The mercenaries made room. None would deny Drak Thor a seat. We were just talking about the rumors, said Zilk, a reptilian bounty hunter with emerald scales. About the new species that humiliated the Varaxians. Drak Thor's upper right hand tightened around his drink. Humans, he said, the word coming out like a curse. You've encountered them? Asked a blue-skinned female mercenary. Once, Drakthor admitted. Mining colony in the Vega sector. I was hired to clear out the humans so another company could take over. The group leaned in closer. What happened? Zilk asked. Drakthor took a long drink before answering. There were 20 of us, professional soldiers from across the galaxy. The humans? Just miners with basic tools. Near the bar, a human man named Jack Reeves pretended to study his drink, while his ears strained to hear the conversation. He was a trader, bringing luxury goods from Earth to the outer colonies. This was his first time on Nexus 7, and he hadn't expected to hear humans being discussed. We attacked during their rest cycle, Drakthor continued. Should have been. Simple. But they had set traps throughout the facility. Not military traps, just machines and tools repurposed to catch us off guard. He downed the rest of his drink and signaled for another. Their leader was a female. Small, maybe half my size. When we cornered her and 5 others in the refinery, I thought it was over. But she looked at me with no fear at all and said, Last. Chance to leave alive. Drakthor laughed, but there was no humor in it. I told her she was in no position to make threats, and that's when she broke the coolant line and flooded the room with toxic gas. But wouldn't that kill them too? Asked one of the other mercenaries. That's what I thought, but they had hidden breathing masks. We had nothing. 3 of my team died before we reached the door. The gas ate through our armor. At the bar, Jack ordered another drink to maintain his cover. He had heard stories about human reputation growing among alien species, but he had assumed they were exaggerated. So they beat you? Zilk asked, sounding skeptical. No, Drakthor growled. We retreated, regrouped, and went in again. This time they had evacuated the main facility. We thought they had run, but they had moved to the mining tunnels below. His new drink arrived, and he took a careful sip. They collapsed tunnels on us. They set off mining charges. They used mining lasers not meant for combat to cut through walls and create ambushes. We lost 5 more before we found their main group. 3 other mercenaries were silent now, fully invested in the story. Their leader was injured, bleeding from a wound in her side, but she still fought. And the strangest thing? They wouldn't leave their wounded behind. They'd risk their lives to drag an injured human to safety. Jack found himself feeling oddly proud. He had never done anything heroic himself, but hearing about fellow humans standing their ground made his chest swell. In the end, Drakthor said quietly, there were only 4 of us left against 11 humans. We decided the pay wasn't worth it and retreated. The company that hired us sent in another team a month later. They never came back. Silence fell over the table. Finally, Zilk spoke. You're saying a bunch of miners defeated professional mercenaries? I don't believe it. Drakthor's 4 eyes fixed on Zilk. Believe what you want, but if you're smart, you'll turn down any contracts involving humans. As the conversation shifted to other topics, Jack finished his drink and slipped out of the bar. He needed to report what he'd heard to Lisa Carter, the intelligence officer stationed on Nexus 7. She had been gathering information about alien perceptions of humanity for months. He found her in her small office, disguised as a trading company headquarters. You won't believe what I just heard, Jack said as he closed the door behind him. Lisa looked up from her data pad. Try me. Jack relayed the conversation, watching Lisa's expression change from interest to concern. This isn't the first story like this I've heard, she said after he finished. The Varaxian incident with the Horizon has spawned all kinds of rumors. Some species are starting to see humans as unpredictable and dangerous. Isn't that good? Jack asked. If they're afraid of us, they'll leave us alone. Lisa shook her head. Fear can lead to preemptive action. Some species might decide to eliminate the human threat before we expand further. She showed him her datapad. On it was a transcript of a Galactic Council meeting. The Varaxians are pushing for containment, restricting human ships to our own solar system. They're arguing that we're too unpredictable to be allowed free travel. Jack frowned. Can they do that? Not alone, but if they convince enough other species. Lisa let the thought hang unfinished. At that moment, her communication device chimed. She answered and listened for a moment, her expression growing grim. "Understand. I'll be right there." She turned to Jack. Council Representative Karen Shaw just arrived on the station. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session about the human question. Jack followed Lisa through the crowded corridors of Nexus 7 to the diplomatic section. There they found Karen Shaw, a stern woman in her 50s who represented Earth's interest to the Galactic Council. "The situation is developing quickly," Karen told them after brief introductions. "The Varaxians are rallying support for sanctions against Earth." "Because of one incident?" Jack asked incredulously. "Not just that," Karen replied. "There have been other encounters, trading disputes, territorial misunderstandings. In each case, humans have responded in ways the other species found disturbing." "Disturbing how?" Lisa asked. "We don't give up," Karen said simply. "Most species surrender when outmatched. Humans fight harder. We improvise, we sacrifice. These aren't traits the Galactic Council values in an emerging species." She looked at both of them seriously. "I need to know everything you've heard about human reputation out here. The Council meets in 6 hours and I need to be prepared to defend our right to the stars." As Jack recounted Drakthor's story again, he realized something important was happening. Humanity's place in the galaxy would be determined not just by their technology or numbers, but by how other species perceived them. And right now, those perceptions were being shaped by stories of miners and explorers who refused to surrender, even when logic said they should. In the shadows of Nexus 7, word continued to spread. Humans, small, soft, physically weak, and somehow terrifying. The news of the Perseverance's victory over the Black Talon mercenaries spread quickly through the criminal underworld. In the shadowy bars and hidden meeting places across the galaxy, mercenaries and bounty hunters shared the story, each adding new details that made humans seem even more terrifying. On the space station Omega Drift, a meeting took place that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. 5 survivors from the Black Talon group sat at a private table, nursing drinks and injuries. Their leader, Zexakar, was not among them. He had not survived the encounter with the Perseverance. "They used their own life support system as a weapon," said Krull, a scarred mercenary with cybernetic implants replacing his left arm. "They vented superheated steam into the corridors after sealing themselves in protective suits." A potential client, a wealthy merchant from the Centauri system, listened with growing concern. But they were just a supply ship, not warriors. "That's what makes them dangerous," replied Mira, the only female survivor. Her skin was pale blue, with burn marks visible on her neck from the battle. "They don't fight like soldiers. They fight like they've spent their whole lives preparing for battle, even the ones who aren't warriors." The merchant shook his head. "I still need that human research outpost cleared. The price I'm offering is 10 times the normal rate." The mercenaries exchanged glances. Finally, Krull spoke. "Not for 10 times, not for 100 times. We don't take contracts on humans anymore." Miles away in the Galactic Council's research center, scientists from 12 different species gathered to discuss the human problem. Dr. Nancy Peterson, a human xenobiologist, had been invited to help explain her species to the concerned alien researchers. "You have to understand," Nancy said to the assembled scientists, "Earth is what we call a death world. Our evolution was shaped by constant threats, from predators to diseases to natural disasters." The lead researcher, a tall, thin alien named Zelana, studied the human woman with 6 golden eyes. "But physically you are not impressive. No natural weapons, no armor, limited strength." Nancy smiled. "That's why we developed our minds. We couldn't outfight most predators, so we had to outsmart them. We became tool users and problem solvers." She brought up a holographic display showing human history. "For thousands of years, humans fought each other because we had no external threats. War became an art form, strategy, tactics, psychological warfare. These are deeply embedded in our culture." One of the alien scientists, a reptilian being, leaned forward. "But your modern humans, your explorers and traders, they are not warriors." "Every human is a potential warrior," Nancy explained. Our ancient ancestors were both prey and predator. Even now, our bodies produce chemicals like adrenaline that can give us bursts of strength and speed in dangerous situations. We call it our fight-or-flight response. We've observed this, said another scientist. Humans seem able to ignore pain that would incapacitate other species. Nancy nodded. It's not that we don't feel pain. We do. But in emergency situations, our bodies can temporarily override the pain response. It's a survival mechanism. Solana made notes on a data pad. And this explains why humans refuse to surrender even when logically defeated? Partly, Nancy said, but it's also cultural. In many human societies, stories of last stands and fighting against impossible odds are celebrated. We admire those who don't give up. As the scientific discussion continued on the human colony world New Eden, the aftermath of another encounter was playing out. Former soldier Greg Walsh stood before a group of alien diplomats demonstrating human combat techniques. Humans don't just fight with their bodies, Greg explained as he moved through a series of martial arts forms. We developed hundreds of fighting styles based on leverage and momentum rather than raw strength. He invited one of the aliens, a massive being nearly twice his size, to try to grab him. When the alien lunged forward, Greg used its momentum to flip it onto its back, leaving the diplomats murmuring in surprise. We're persistence hunters, Greg continued, helping the alien up. On Earth, early humans would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We can keep moving long after other species would stop from pain or fatigue. One of the diplomats, clearly disturbed, asked, Is it true humans can function without sleep for 3 days? Greg nodded. If necessary, yes. Not at peak performance. But we can keep going. And that you can survive losing large amounts of blood? Within limits, but yes. The diplomats exchanged worried glances. Meanwhile, in the private office of Galactic Counselor Keith Johnson, another human was using the growing reputation to humanity's advantage. Johnson sat across from representatives from 3 different alien species, all looking uncomfortable. I understand your concerns, Johnson said smoothly. But surely trade restrictions against Earth would be unwise at this point in our relationship. One of the aliens, a floating jellyfish-like creature, pulsed nervously. We have heard stories about human resourcefulness when cornered. Johnson smiled. Just stories, I'm sure. But Earth is interested in peaceful trade, mutually beneficial relationships. And if those relationships become less mutual? Asked another representative. Johnson didn't answer directly. Instead, he pulled up footage from the Perseverance incident, showing how the human crew had turned their own ship into a weapon. This was a civilian vessel, he said quietly, with no military training. I would hate for there to be any misunderstandings between our species. The message was clear. The representatives quickly agreed to Johnson's trade terms. Back on Nexus 7, the mercenary Drakthor watched as contract after contract involving humans was rejected. Fees for human-related jobs had increased tenfold, but still there were few takers. I told you, he said to Zilk, who had scoffed at his warnings weeks earlier. The stories are spreading. The Black Talon were the most feared mercenary group in this sector, and now they refuse to take contracts against even civilian human targets. Zilk's scales rippled in distress. But they're just stories. Exaggerations. Drakthor's forearms crossed over his massive chest. Are they? The Varaxians tried to contain them. The Black Talon tried to capture them. Both failed. Now there are rumors that 3 different species are considering preemptive strikes before humans expand further. You think there will be war? Drakthor was silent for a long moment before answering. I think anyone who starts a war with humans will regret it. They don't understand defeat the way other species do. They keep fighting, keep adapting, keep coming back. He looked around the bar at the gathered mercenaries, some of the toughest fighters in the galaxy, all now refusing human contracts. That's why even mercenaries are terrified, he said. Not because humans are strong, because they refuse to accept that they're weak. The asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter was known as a dangerous place to navigate. The floating rocks moved in unpredictable patterns, colliding with each other, and creating new hazards every day. Most ships avoided this region, but today, the human supply ship Perseverance had no choice. "Any sign of that energy signature, Matt?" Captain Alan Foster asked his sensor operator. Matt Boyd shook his head, his eyes never leaving his screen. "Nothing yet, Captain. But something damaged that mining outpost and the distress signal came from somewhere in this field." Alan nodded and turned to his pilot. "Keep us at half speed, Amy. I don't like this." Amy Chen's hands moved steadily. "Over the controls." "Yes, sir. Maintaining half speed." The Perseverance wasn't a military vessel. It was a supply ship carrying food, medicine, and equipment to the outer colonies. Its crew were civilians with minimal combat training. But Alan had served in Earth's Defense Force before retiring, and something about this mission felt wrong. "Captain," Security Chief Maria Ellis said quietly, approaching his chair. "I've armed the crew as you ordered, but we only have 14 sidearms total." "It's better than nothing," Alan replied. "Distribute them to crew members with military experience." "First." Maria nodded and left the bridge. Alan's gut feeling grew stronger. The distress call had seemed legitimate, a mining outpost reporting an attack by unknown forces, but now he wasn't so sure. "I've got something," Matt suddenly announced. "A ship hiding behind that large asteroid at 2 o'clock. It's big, sir. Much bigger than us." Alan leaned forward. "Can you identify it?" "Not in our database. Definitely not human design." The communications console beeped. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Daniel Wright. "On screen," Alan ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a face that made several crew members gasp. The alien had blue-black skin, 6 eyes arranged in a circle, and what looked like metal plates embedded in its face. "Human vessel," the alien said in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "I am Zexkar of the Black Talon. Your ship is surrounded. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Alan kept his expression neutral. "This is Captain Alan Foster of the supply ship Perseverance. We're on a humanitarian mission to assist a mining outpost. We have no quarrel with you." Zexkar made a sound that might have been laughter. "There is no mining outpost in distress. That was a lure to bring you here. Now power down, or we will disable your ship and take it by force." The screen went dark. "They're powering weapons," Matt reported, his voice tense. Alan hit the shipwide communication button. "All hands, battle stations, this is not a drill. We are under attack by hostile forces." Amy looked back at him, fear in her eyes. "Captain, we're no match for them. Should we surrender?" Alan shook his head. "No, we have 3 colonies depending on these supplies, plus I don't think they plan to take prisoners." 5 ships now visible," Matt called out. "They were hiding among the asteroids. We're surrounded." The first blast hit the Perseverance hard, rocking the ship. Lights flickered and alarms blared. "Engines at 60%, Amy reported. "One more hit like that and we're dead in space." Alan studied the asteroid field on his screen. An idea formed in his mind, a desperate one. "Amy, full power to the front shields. Then give me maximum thrust toward that cluster of asteroids at our 11 o'clock. Amy stared at him. "Sir, that's too dense. We won't make it through." "We're not going through," Alan said. "We're going to use them." Understanding dawned on Amy's face, and she turned back to her controls. Full power to front shields. Maximum thrust engaged. The Perseverance shot forward, directly toward a dense cluster of spinning rocks. The enemy ships, surprised by the sudden movement, fired again but missed. "All hands, brace for impact," Alan shouted. The ship slammed into the outer asteroids of the cluster. The shields held, but just barely. The impact sent several smaller asteroids spinning out toward the enemy ships. "Hard to port," Alan ordered. "Then cut engines and go silent." Amy executed the maneuver perfectly. The Perseverance swung around behind a larger asteroid and powered down, hiding its energy signature. "They're confused," Matt reported, watching his sensors. "The asteroids we disturbed are causing chaos in their formation." Alan nodded. "Now, we wait." For 20 tense minutes, the Perseverance drifted silently behind the asteroid while the enemy ship searched. Two of them were hit by drifting rocks, their shields flaring. "Captain," Maria said, returning to the bridge, "engineering has an idea. They think they can modify our mining laser to fire in short, powerful bursts. It won't do much damage, but it might disable one of their ships." "Do it," Alan said. While engineering worked, Daniel approached with another suggestion. "Sir, I've been studying their communication patterns. They're using an old frequency band that's vulnerable to interference. If we broadcast on multiple bands at once, we might be able to jam their communications." Alan smiled grimly. "Make it happen." When one of the enemy ships drifted too close to their hiding spot, Alan gave the order. "Hit them with everything we've got." The modified mining laser fired, striking the enemy ship's engine. At the same time, Daniel flooded their communication channels with noise. The enemy ship spun out of control, crashing into another asteroid. "Now, Amy, full power, get us out of this field," Alan commanded. The Perseverance shot out from behind the asteroid, engines blazing. The remaining enemy ships gave chase, but they were hampered by the communication jam and the increasingly unstable asteroid field. "They're falling behind," Matt reported. Just as it seemed they might escape, a larger ship appeared directly in their path. It was sleek and predatory with weapons ports open along its hull. "That's their command ship," Alan said, recognizing the design from his military days. "Amy, can we go around?" Before Amy could answer, the ship fired. The blast hit the Perseverance, dead center, knocking out main power. "Emergency systems only," Matt reported as red emergency lights came on. "We're dead in space." Alan watched as the command ship moved in, extending a docking tube. "They're going to board us," Maria said, checking her sidearm. "We don't have enough weapons to fight them off." Alan looked around at his crew, ordinary men and women who had signed up to deliver supplies, not fight a battle. But in their eyes, he saw determination, not defeat. "We don't need weapons," he said. "We have the ship." He quickly outlined his plan. When the mercenaries breached the hull 10 minutes later, they found empty corridors. Confident in their victory, they moved deeper into the ship. The trap was sprung in the main cargo hold. As 30 mercenaries entered the large space, the artificial gravity suddenly reversed, sending them flying toward the ceiling. Then it cut out completely, leaving them floating helplessly. Crew members who had secured themselves to the walls used fire extinguishers as makeshift thrusters, moving through the zero-gravity environment with practiced ease. In engineering, another group of mercenaries found themselves locked in a compartment that began rapidly heating up as the humans rerouted exhaust from the backup generators. On the bridge, Zexkar himself confronted Alan. "What are you?" he demanded as his soldiers were systematically neutralized throughout the ship. "You're just supply runners. You should have surrendered." Alan stood his ground. "We're humans. We don't give up." The Perseverance may have been just a supply ship, but its crew had turned it into a weapon, and against all odds they had won. The situation had reached a breaking point. On the edges of human space, ships from a coalition of hostile species gathered. The leaders of 3 major alien powers, the Varaxian Empire, the Zodan Collective, and the Meraxi Dominion, had decided that humanity needed to be contained before it spread further into the galaxy. "The humans must be stopped now," declared Varaxian High Commander Drevik to his allies over a secure channel. "They are too unpredictable, too dangerous to be allowed to expand." The plan was simple: a coordinated attack on 5 human colony worlds followed by a push toward Earth itself. With their superior numbers and technology, they expected a quick victory. What they didn't expect was the difficulty in finding mercenaries willing to join the fight. "The price is 10 times the standard rate," Drevik told a group of mercenary captains. "Your ships will be protected by our fleet." One by one, the mercenaries declined. Some made excuses about prior commitments. Others were more direct. "I don't care if you offer 100 times the rate," said a scarred captain whose species resembled a bipedal wolf. "My crew won't fight humans, not after what happened to the Black Talon." In Earth's military headquarters, Admiral Susan Rivera studied the intelligence reports with a grim expression. Their spy network had detected the coalition fleet forming, but the news wasn't all bad. "They have fewer ships than expected," she told her officers. Our sources say many mercenary groups refused the contract. Colonel Frank Peters nodded. The stories about the Horizon and the Perseverance have spread far and wide. But even with fewer ships, they still outnumber us 3-1. Susan looked at the holographic display showing the position of Earth's defense fleet. We'll need to be creative then, and we'll need everyone. The call went out to all human ships in the sector, not just military vessels, but civilian craft as well. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Mining ships, research vessels, colony transports, all changed course to join the defense fleet. On the mining vessel, Deep Excavator, Captain Tim Rodriguez addressed his crew after receiving the emergency broadcast. "I know we're not soldiers," he said to the 30 men and women gathered in the ship's mess hall. "But Earth needs us. The colonies need us." A young engineer raised her hand. "Our ship isn't armed. What can we do against warships?" Tim smiled. "We have mining lasers designed to cut through asteroid rock. We have excavation charges. And most importantly, we have human ingenuity. We'll find a way to help." Similar scenes played out across hundreds of civilian vessels as they converged on the defense point. Within 48 hours, Earth's military fleet of 70 ships had been joined by over 300 civilian craft of all sizes and types. Admiral Rivera looked at the updated display with satisfaction. "Now let's show them what happens when humans work together." The coalition fleet was unprepared for what they encountered at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. Instead of a disorganized retreat, they found a wall of ships waiting for them. Military vessels in the center with civilian craft forming the wings. "They can't be serious," Drevik said in disbelief. "Those aren't warships. They're miners and traders." His tactical officer looked nervous. "Sir, they're using unusual formations. Our battle computers can't predict their strategy." "Because they don't have one," Drevik snapped. "They're desperate. Proceed with the attack as planned." The first wave of coalition ships moved forward, weapons charged. They expected the human fleet to break formation at the first sign of combat. Instead, the civilian ships moved in precise coordination with the military vessels. When the coalition ships fired, the humans were already moving. Mining vessels used their industrial shields, designed to withstand asteroid collisions, to protect more vulnerable craft. Research ships deployed sensor buoys that confused enemy targeting systems. Transport vessels released clouds of reflective material that scattered energy weapons, and they fought back. Mining lasers, never designed for combat, carved into enemy hulls. Civilian pilots, lacking military training but intimately familiar with their ships, performed maneuvers that military vessels couldn't risk. In the command center of one of the Varaxian battlecruisers, an officer reported in confusion, "Sir, they're using mining charges as torpedoes. They're turning their own damaged ships into weapons." The battle raged for hours. The coalition forces, despite their superior firepower, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to follow conventional tactics. When one approach failed, the humans would immediately try something new. When part of their line weakened, nearby ships would rush to fill the gap, regardless of their class or capability. Aboard the Earth flagship Defender, Admiral Rivera watched the battle unfold with grim determination. They had lost ships, too many, but the coalition forces were faltering. "They don't understand what they're fighting," she told Colonel Peters. "They think they're fighting a fleet. They're fighting humanity." On his mining vessel, now damaged, with life support failing, Captain Rodriguez made a decision. "Set course for the Varaxian command ship," he told his pilot. "Full speed." "But sir," the pilot protested, "our engines are critical. If we push them—" "I know," Tim said quietly. "Send the evacuation signal. Anyone who wants to leave, use the escape pods now." Not a single crew member moved toward the escape pods. The Deep Excavator accelerated toward the massive Varaxian ship, engines burning past their safety limits. Coalition vessels fired upon it, but the mining ship's reinforced hull absorbed the damage. In the final moments before impact, Tim sent a transmission to all channels. "This is how humans fight when everything that matters is at stake." The explosion as the mining ship's drive core detonated was visible across the battlefield. The Varaxian command ship, its shields already weakened, suffered catastrophic damage. Seeing their command vessel crippled and faced with an enemy that grew more determined rather than less as the battle progressed, Drevik gave the order to retreat. One by one, the coalition ships disengaged and fled. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors among the wreckage, a new understanding spread through the galaxy. Humans weren't just dangerous because of their strange tactics or their refusal to surrender. They were dangerous because they stood together, military and civilian alike, each bringing their unique skills and knowledge to the fight. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Council chamber was filled to capacity as Linda Murray, Earth's new diplomatic representative, addressed the assembled species. "We did not ask for this conflict," she said, her voice firm. "We seek peaceful relations with all species, but make no mistake, humanity will defend itself, its colonies, and its future among the stars." When the vote came, the resolution to recognize humanity as a major galactic power passed by a wide margin. No one spoke against it. Outside the council chamber, 2 alien diplomats spoke quietly. "They're still physically weak," one said. "Still fragile compared to most species." "Yes," the other replied. "And yet mercenaries refuse contracts against them. War fleets retreat from them. Strange, isn't it? They're just humans after all." They looked at each other, then simultaneously shook their heads. "No, not just humans. And that's why everyone is terrified."